intro to data visualization. And so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning how to use R Markdown. And for that, so let's just start like we started the two other days. Oops. I'm gonna ask a question here in our document, Google Doc here, and I'd like you guys to answer, just so for us to have some kind of interaction in the beginning of the course. So the question I'm asking today, let me just send that through the chat. The question I'm asking today is, did you learn as much as you expected for these last 2 days? And then based on the knowledge that you have learned, can you give me an example of how a function learned in R during this course could help you in your research? So I'm gonna answer my question here. Did you learn as much as you expected? I think so. I could use the function R, the function select to select the specific or relations, or actually this function filter to filter out specific populations from 2000 genomes data set. I have specific human population from 2000 I've been working with. Okay. Siam said, I hope you did. So how are you using R, Siam, in your work?
Mainly for plotting. My main programming language is something else, basically. So I sometimes use it when there is functionality that is not there. I mainly use Julia, by the way.
You mainly use Julia? Oops.
Yeah.
I haven't learned Julia. Is it easier than R?
It is similar, and it is just-in-time compiled language, so it is faster for general, say, simple loops.
Yeah. Okay, so Ricardo said that yes, he has learned as much as he expected. So many things that will apply to my research, but I really like the merging functions. And then Sarah said, yes, I learned a lot about plotting data and manipulating data sets that will be useful for several projects. Michael said, yes, I learned a lot. One of the things that can help me is the join functions, which can help me combine RNA-seq data sets and assemble it with proteomics data. Cool. Jenny said, yes, I can better manipulate data frames with functions in library like dplyr and apply ggplot to refine visualization in Seurat, which is the single cell analysis package, which is our built-in package, right? It's a very famous one. Robert said, yes, I did. I can make plots with ggplot. Great. Then you said, yes, learning how, okay, he's still typing. Jessinia, yes, learning how to make plots. Emmy said, she's still typing. Ralph said, a lot. I want to watch day 2 recording again. I learned plotting data and adding statistical analysis. We just like touched upon one tiny part of statistical analysis, which is like t-test, but there are so many other tests out there that you guys could explore later on on your own, and during the next, in your own, and during the next future. Then you said, yes, learning how to manipulate data would not only make my life easier when treating the data I want to analyze, but also it helps me to organize and present the data clearly. Yeah. So Nick Peterson said, yes, making plots. People really like making plots. And for those that are doing single cell, it's actually quite useful to make plots because normally you are dealing with a lot of data and data that is very kind of noisy, right? So, and not only dealing a lot of different data, but like dealing with different populations, right, of cells. So I think R could be useful for this, the research, the single cell research. Okay, so today we are going to this party 2 project folder. So party 1 was the one that we did use for workshop day 1 and 2, and now we are going to be looking at party 2 project folder. Oops, I'm going to drop the link of that folder here in our chat. So folder 2, and we are gonna do like the same way we did last time. We were downloading the folder. So we downloaded the entire folder as a zip file. And then it goes to my downloads, I guess. The zip file, I'm gonna put in my, okay, I already have it, but I'll delete and put it again. Then I'm gonna unzip. And there I'm gonna now open part 1 project. Party 2 project. So make some reaction once you have gotten to this specific place and once you have clicked in party2.r markdown like I have it here. I'm gonna wait for some reaction. So raise your hand or clap or send some party emoji. So for those that are still like processing this, we just download the party 2 folder, and now instead of opening party1.r, we are opening party2.rmd, which stands for R Markdown. And I want you guys to do something about like raise your hand once you got to the same place as where I am right now. So 9 people already raised their hands. That's great. Someone laughed. 14, woohoo, 15, 16. $17, almost there. So we almost, so Chris and Carlos, have you guys, and Alexander, have you guys gotten to this point? Christopher, Hamad, Carlos, Cruz, Alexander, are you guys with me? So I just add, okay, so Alexander, we are now just entering to the folder part 1, part 2 folder. And we just asked for people to download that folder, which the link is right here. And we just asked for you to download the whole folder, and then you unzip. And then you unzip the folder, and then we get to this document called Part 2 R Markdown. Okay, so we are all here. So if you remember, when we were using the Part 1 folder, we were using a file that was called Part 1 and part1.r. So this is the source file. We call it source file. And I think the powerful thing about not using the source file and using the R Markdown file, which has this format .rmd, is because it's a very straightforward way to produce like projects, to produce documents, and to make your life easier. Because different than the .r file, where we would need to comment every single thing, right, that we wanted to type down, in R Markdown, you can actually type text and combine that text with chunks of R, and then later add more text, and then later add more chunks of R. This is very powerful because, for instance, sometimes you want to combine, like, for instance, when you are writing a paper, right, a manuscript, you want to combine text with image. And in this way, through the R Markdown, we can easily do that. And instead of just like editing your, for instance, when you're writing a manuscript, right? Instead of editing your manuscript every single time, like changing the figure there, because you had that in a Word document, changing the figure there every single time, instead you could just change the figure within your document and rerun again. So this is the power of R Markdown. It is very reproducible and very easy to work with. R Markdown, as the name stands for, it is written in the language called Markdown. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but there are some tricks here that I'm going to teach you in order to make your document even prettier. So so now we have like this mixture of text and chunks of code, and text and chunks of code. And then this is basically code that similar, these are basically code similar to those that we have been writing yesterday and the day before. And in order to compile this code, we could use this function called knit. And then you're going to see the magic now. And I want to see if you guys can also do this knit here, which is like knitting. So like producing the whole thing. You're going to see that we transform this kind of like document that is more like a written document into something that is visually appealing, right? Right now, we are compiling this document to be transformed into a HTML file, but we could also transform that in many different things. So this is the magic of R Markdown. So our document becomes a pretty document, you know, in which you have different headings here that you could go through your code. And even nicer is the fact that you have your code and the tables and the written part all together. So raise your hand if you're able to produce this HTML document by just doing this, clicking in this function here called knit, and tell me what you think about this magic.
Yeah, downloading necessary packages might take some time here.
Okay, so people are downloading, I guess, 2 packages that were not there before, right? I think we didn't have it installed. Let me check. We didn't have neither installed, neither this HMISC, right? Okay, there are plenty of packages that are needed to be installed. So once you get it compiled in this HTML file, then raise your hand, just to make sure that everybody managed to get to that point. So this is super cool. For instance, if you want to send a report to your PI, right, you could just send it this way. I think this is much nicer than even you're going to learn that you do not necessarily need to share the code later. So even just to have yourself, your own documented for your own purpose, right? Like for documenting all your analysis, I would rather use R Markdown than using just the .r source file, because I think that way I keep everything into one document only, and that makes my life easier, at least. So 7 people have managed to compile, 8 people have managed to compile the HTML.
I noticed in when you go file, new file, there's a whole bunch of other ones as well, like C file, C++, RSweave, RHTML. What's the difference like an RHTML and R Markdown?
Yeah, so one interesting thing here that is also powerful here is that you can not only insert chunks of R code, but you could also insert chunks of other types of other language, right? Like Bash or Python. So that makes life, I mean, it is basically combining different languages in the same document, which is also super cool. I've never used the Python and R together in R Markdown. Have you, Sinyun?
Yes, I have. Yeah, if
And
you have any,
it is straightforward.
yeah, you need installation of Python to use it inside our Markdown, but using it is pretty straightforward.
So Abdurrahman is having a problem in line 57. I think it's something to do with this. Did you get to install the library HMISC yesterday? And Maya said that her RStudio isn't showing a neat option. And Maya, is your computer a Windows or Mac machine?
It's a Mac.
Interesting. And you just downloaded your R?
Yeah, I did it before the course started.
And you opened this specific R Markdown?
Oh, let me try. Hold on.
Abdurrahman, what error message are you seeing? Just line number?
It's saying error in library HMISC.
HMISC.
Yeah.
For some reason, some people are not being able to use this library, but what I would say, so for those people that are having this error, I would say that I would tell you guys to do the specific two things. You go and then you comment this out. So just for those people that are having a problem with this library, you comment this out. So put a hashtag in front of that sentence. And then we also comment that part. You remember that we were computing the mean and standard deviation. So let me just find out where that is. We comment, was that there? It is there, right? No. Try to just make that thing out and see what happens. Because yesterday we were okay, perfect. Because apparently I don't think we are using that library right now here. So okay, so some people for some reason didn't have the need property installed yet. So they are like taking, like the computers take their time to make this happen. So I mean, just bear there with me, and we are gonna, I'm sure you guys are gonna be able to compile your document after in the end of this exercise. So I just want you guys to remember how you could, once you install once you you are using R for your own research, and you want to create one new document just for your own research, the way you do that, you're going to be doing by like file, new file, and then you say new R markdown. And then you could say report. Then you could create a title for your file, right? Like report to PI, whatever. And then some people, like we are defaulting that whenever we compile that document, our output format is going to be a HTML file. But there are other possibilities of types of documents to be compiled. One of them is PDF, which I think it's very cool, but it requires some other things. For instance, this Mac text for Windows and Mac text for Mac. So I'm not gonna be teaching you guys how to do that. I would love to, but we are gonna need to skip that. But later on, if you guys wanna compile into a PDF, I could try to troubleshoot and help you guys to do so. And we could also compile our document into a Word file. But for now, let's just leave it as HTML to make it simple. So now I have this report, and R gives us some nice like help here, saying that this R markdown is a document. The markdown is a simple format syntax for managing HTML, PDF, and Word documents. And the way that so if you want more information about how to handle our markdown document, you can go and look at this website. We can go there together. I'm gonna share that here. Our markdown document website. And there we are gonna have some stuff, you know, documents that we could use as an example. And we also have in our intro to our data visualization, we also have our cheat sheets for our Markdown. And I'm gonna share this one with you guys. Our I'm gonna put this in our text. Okay, so has everybody, so let me just find out if everybody's was able to create a new R Markdown document. Raise your hand if you're able to do so. So we have 10 people. You can name it anything or everything. So maybe you can put that as like homework, and later you could use that as a homework report.
Are we choosing HTML?
Yes. And then here, what you could do is, so the interesting thing about, let me check, like, please guys, okay, so 15 of you have raised your hand saying that you guys have managed to create a new R Markdown document. And maybe you could put your name into that document just so I know who is who. Sorry, I'm gonna put my initials here. Mika. Oops. Okay, sorry, I'm having a little tiny problem here. Okay, perfect. And then what is interesting about our Markdown is that we can create, like I said, headers. So for instance, let's say we are gonna say like assignment, homework assignment, and then assign, I don't know. And then you say this document, and then you write something like this document was created to output or to run the homework assignment. And then you can say about importing data set, the data set. So do you see here that I used, instead of hashtag, 2 hashtags, I used 3 hashtags. And you can see here as well that this is one of the difference between .r and .r Markdown. When we were using hashtags, hashtags were in the .r were used for comments, right? But hashtags in our Markdown are actually used for headers. So, and the more headers you have, like the more hashtags you have, the lower is the header. So the header becomes even even smaller than the first header, you know. So this header here is included within this header, but then this header here has the same size or is in the same level as the first header. Let's compile this tiny little thing just so you guys understand what I'm talking about. So you see here that importing the data set here is smaller, has like this inside header with the homework assignment. So Michael asked, can you please have a list of all the packages we've used in this course? So all the packages that we have used in this course is actually typed here. And all of this is going to be useful for the next different, all of this like as comments that we have used yesterday and the day before. Okay, so you can lower your hands now, and then I want to see if you guys have managed to compile your homework report. So raise your hands if you managed to get this. So this is just a plot that R actually gives to us. It's just an example plot, right? So they are saying here that we can include plots into our chunk, into our Markdown document. Oops. So the way, like I said, the way that we include chunks of code in our R Markdown document is through this specific kind of like shadowed box, and we are gonna call it chunks. So it's a chunk of R, so like written in R. And to include that kind of chunk, the way you do that is by using this command here called insert. So we are going to go to insert, and then you could insert many different types of coding, right? You could write in Python, you could write in R, or you could write in all these different bash or whatever. But because we are learning R here, we're going to insert a new R chunk. So as you can see here, this new R chunk starts with this, I don't know, like codes or triple coding. I don't know how you say that in English.
Backcode.
How do you say it?
Triple backcode.
Triple backcode. And then you have the curly parentheses or brackets. And then you say you have R as the language R. And then in order to close that chunk, you need to also insert the triple back codes to close that specific chunk. For instance, instead of using that insert R thing, we could also just type ourselves that, oops, that those back codes, and we could also type ourselves R, but you always need to remember that you need to close that chunk, sorry. Otherwise, R is not going to understand when your code has started and when your code has ended. So please try both ways. So try clicking in the +C insert button on top here, or try typing it down with your keyboard. Okay, while you're doing that, I'm gonna try to answer stuff that are happening in our people that are talking about in our, okay. So Joey asked about this R setup include false and need options chunk set equals true. We're gonna talk about that in a brief, Joe. And Joey. And then Robert asked, okay, so whatever is in the gray is the chunk, correct? And not only that, so whenever it is like, if you have R, it's gonna be a R chunk. If you had something else, let's try here, would be a bash chunk, you know? So whenever we are compiling this, the computer is understand, okay, I need to understand that whatever is written here is written with the bash features, right? And then whatever is written here is written with all the R features, right? So if you want to type a comment in blah, blah, blah in R, because now this is an R chunk, what should I do in order to, for the computer to understand that it's only a comment? Yes, so everything that we were doing in R, the .r source file, we should be using the same properties that we learned yesterday, we should be using when we are inside of this R chunk. Okay, so there are some interesting properties of this R chunk, and one of them is that you can name it. So you could name that R chunk, I don't know, first plot. And that is gonna be understood by the compiler that is a chunk that has the name first plot. So name your chunk whatever you want to name, and then I'll wait for a little bit. And then when you are knitting it, you can see here that we have a chunk called first plot that is labeled as first plot. So this is just in order for you to track what is going on, and if something fails, then you at least knows the name of that chunk, and so you can trace it back more easily, you know. Okay, and then there are other properties of R Markdown that you guys could learn. One thing is like sometimes when you are loading a package, some warnings would arise, as I think you guys have noticed. So in order to not have those warning messages in the output that you guys have in the HTML file, then you can say that you can ignore the warning message by typing warning equals to false. And that is going to make us get rid of the warning message. So you learned about warning. So let's just make like a tiny operation here. Let's say that we have A, so string is equals to this is our string. And then save that. And let's print that string. Oop. Okay, this is a string. This is not very R, but this is type this string. This is a string. And then you print that string in R. So we expect that this, so let's just compile this to see what happens in the output document and leave it like this. So now what I'm getting, right? I'm getting the chunk R with that stupid document comment, and then I'm also having it written in the chunk. The string is equals to this is a string, print a string, and then I get the output, right? So if I tell my chunk that actually I don't wanna print the code, and I just wanna R to print the output, I can do that by saying echo equals to false. You see now that I only have the output of that chunk and I don't have the entire code. This is quite useful, for instance, when we have like a huge code of like ggplot code that we produced and we add a lot of details and then it became huge. And basically you just want to show your PI the plot and not the full code, right? So you could actually just type echo is equals to false. So it runs the plot, the whole chunk, but it only outputs the output of the chunk and not the coding.
What's the warning for again?
Warning is whenever you have like sometimes when you're loading a package or when you're doing some kind of analysis, it would pop up some kind of warning. So if you don't want that warning message to pop up to your output, to your HTML, then you can type warning equals to false and they're gonna get rid of those warning messages. And then now another thing that another type of configuration that you could have in your code is this term called eval, which stands for evaluation, evaluating your code, right? So for instance, let's say you don't want R to evaluate one specific chunk of your code. Maybe because it's broken, maybe because you actually don't want to, because it takes so much time and you don't want R to be like running that code. So you tell R that you don't want the code to be run. So you can say false. So you're gonna see here that we don't expect this is a string to be popping up in our document because we told R don't run this chunk of code. Let's see if that is what happens. So we don't have this is a string, right? Because we told R don't run this chunk of code. So So there are many other things that one could learn, and one way to do so is by changing this kind of like tool kind of image here. And you can say that you want to show warnings or do not show warnings, show message or do not show message. In this way, there are plenty of chunk options here that one could go and try to have a look and see what are the different chunk options mean. So I just told you like very few of those that are, I think that are useful in my head, but you could find like almost an infinite amount of options. For instance, show message, then you see that it automatically types into your chunk saying message is equal to true. So whenever there is a message coming from a package, you guys would get that message in your output file. Okay, we got some message here. So Emma asked, a warning? I don't, it's because maybe we haven't had a warning in our exercise, but sometimes when you're using a package, sometimes you get a warning saying something, you know, like, this package may be bad. If you use this function, something may bad happen, you know. So the warning equals to false is saying don't output in my output file anything to do with warnings. Yeah, I think Maya gave a much shorter version of that. Sorry. Message is also like preventing, if there is any message coming from a package that you loaded, it takes out those messages. It takes those messages out from your output. Basically, those warnings equals to false and message equals to false is for you guys to have a clean output document. So you don't have those like useless, basically, like kind of ugly messages in your output, you know? Okay, so we learned that hashtags here, different than the .r files, they are useful to create headers. We learned that in order to create R chunk in R Markdown, we need to include those back quotes. In this way, you could do that by using this inserting option here, or you could actually type it down. We learned that we can name our R chunks and that we could configure our R chunks in many different ways. If we don't want our R chunk to show up in our output document, we can say echo equals to false. If we don't want a message to be popping up neither warnings, we could set that to false as well. And if we don't want the chunk to be evaluated, we can say eval equals to false. But if you want that to be evaluated, then you say eval equals to true. And with that, I want you guys, with that in mind, I want.
Question.
Yeah.
What constitutes a message?
So, for instance, when we load, we don't. Let's see if any library would give me. So this, I would say that loading required package, I would say that maybe this is a message, but I'm not completely sure. Here, this would be a message, you know, attaching package, blah, blah, blah. This is a message.
Okay.
And you don't really want that in your output document, right? Because it doesn't really,
Got it.
Doesn't add anything to your report.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay, so let's get back to, so this is something that we're just exercising here. Do you want to add some things, Siyun, to what I just said? about R Markdown? Do you have anything that you would want to add?
I think that's enough for now.
Okay, so let's just compile again our part 2 R Markdown. And soon we are gonna go for a break, so don't worry. We're getting our break like at 10. Okay, so here is basically all the things that we did during our session yesterday. One thing that we have added to this that was not there before was this functionality here called Cable, in which you can print out your tables in a nice way. So I'm gonna teach you guys later how to do that, but basically here we are saying output the first 10 rows of this data frame called last month summarized, and then create a caption called a data table with 10 rows. And then it outputs in your R Markdown a data table, like the data, 10 rows of that data frame. So you can see here that these R Markdown and code chunks are in the same level as importing data and selecting columns, and which are in the same level as visualizing distributions with ggplot. T is also, so you guys see that this is the same level as this, but this is a lower level to this one. And you see that whenever we are in a chunk, we need to make the comments with hashtags like we were doing yesterday. Okay, so many questions. Okay, so you got it? Yeah. And then here we have everything. So we have some typing here, like really just typing as it was a normal Word document, and then some chunks, and then some typing, and then some chunks. And then here we were, like we were doing yesterday when we were plotting the fully vaccinated total per county. And do you remember that we guys filtered anything that was below 1 million population size? So we have just the very large counties in California. And then we also understood that fully vaccinated total is not a good measure because it's biased by sample size, right? So that's why we then later computed the density. So by density. And do you guys remember that we used the function within ggplot geometry to create a smooth plot? And here we chose, let the software to choose let the package to choose what model they would want to use to make this move. But here we are also plotting the points, like some of you guys asked, right? Like instead of the smooth line, can we just plot the points? And you can see here that the points and the smooth lines are very similar to one another. We are also learning how to, instead of putting all the plots together, we put them separated with this facet wrap. And my computer stopped working at that point. I don't know if you guys remember. We used this YMD function within the loop read date package in order to have like very nice described dates. And so here we have basically, and then we also learned a little bit about statistics when we were doing the t-test in order to ask if the mean vaccination density in LA was similar to the mean vaccination density in San Diego, and they were clearly very different. Okay, so now we are gonna take a break, and what we are gonna be doing is to, I'm gonna tell you guys in a second, but we are gonna go to breakout rooms in order for you guys to deal with your own creative mind, and for you guys to kind of play around a little bit together. So let's come back at 10 past 10, and I will be telling you how we are going to be making this interactive learning. Okay, so see you later, and if there is anyone here that is still troubleshooting, I would be happy to help in the next couple of minutes.
Daniel, let's try to fix your issue now.
Okay. So should I share my screen or?
Oh, okay. Let me change the setting.
So this is what I have been getting for the error.
Can I find function?
It's because you don't have the deployer. Do you have deployer?
Yeah, right
Can
here.
you-
Okay, can you try pressing the knit button up there?
Mhm.
Can you go up in the loading stuff?
Oh, yeah. Loading
Okay.
stuff is commented out there.
You should only just comment out the first line. Go down to the loading there, library there. So you were having problems with the HMISC package, wasn't you?
Yeah, all the other lines shouldn't be commented out.
Was just
Oh, I see.
the first line.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna get some water.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. That was
no problem.
So hello guys, I'm back, and I hope you guys are excited to be part of this interactive part in which we are basically gonna be going to break out rooms in order for you guys to kind of like interact a bit with each other. So let me just share my screen. So basically, when we are in the end of this party2.r markdown document, we have this header called challenge. So I've put this like chunk of R here, and basically what I want you guys to do while you guys are in your breakout rooms, I want you guys to take this chunk, R chunk below here, and create a plot that is different than the ones that we have been using in our data set, like the county plots, right? I would recommend that you guys using, so you guys go to the Tidy Tuesday, and I'm gonna be dropping the link here in the chat and in our document. So here I'm saying break challenge breakout room. So we are gonna go to Tidy Tuesday. And then when you are, so I'm gonna divide you guys. So we are, how many are we? Like 20, 21. So I'm gonna divide you guys in 4 different breakout rooms. And then you guys gonna go to data. And then you guys are going to decide from which year you guys wanna take the data. Let's say I'm gonna say 2020 because it was a terrible year. And I don't know, and then you guys pick one date here. I don't know, the day of your birthday or the month of your birthday. Let me find mine here. And then I'm gonna look at beach volleyball. And there, in this specific chunk here, you're gonna figure out how to get the data for the beach volleyball data. And then I want you guys to create something, a meaningful plot out of this data. Does everybody get it? Raise your hand if you get it, if understood. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna stop sharing. And I understood that you guys could ask for help if you need, but I actually don't know, but because you guys are experts in Zoom, me and Sue are gonna be waiting for those questions, you know, but I know that when you are in your breakout room, you could ask for help. So we are gonna do this in 2 ways. The first way, I'm gonna give you guys like 10 minutes to decide which data set your group wants to use, and then decide and then load the data set. And then we are gonna come back to the room and say, my group has chosen to do this data. And then we are gonna go back to our rooms, and then you guys are gonna start like dealing with the data. And then after 20 minutes, I want you guys to come back, and then each group or one person of each group is gonna present what you guys came up with. I can see that people left because people are afraid of doing this, but please don't be afraid. It's just for us to interact a little bit, okay? It's not gonna hurt anyone to talk about this. It's just so you guys get some experience to basically, you're gonna be doing that in your research, right? Like be exposed to the different data friends that you have never seen before. So I just want you guys to get a feeling of that. Okay, so let's create the 4 different breakout rooms. So I got those rooms. I don't know, can they still hear me if I'm not
I,
in
I
the
don't
room?
think so.
They can still hear me?
I don't think so.
I think we have to go back to the main room to ask you a question or something like that. Or you can go to our breakout rooms to like check up on us,
Okay,
something like that.
okay, and how do I do that? I have no idea.
Let me see.
Christopher, I signed you to the, it's because you have two. Okay, never mind. This is very complicated. Do you know how to do this?
I think so.
How do you go to the room?
You can.
Sorry, I took a longer break. What are we doing in the break rooms?
So you are gonna be choosing a data set from Tidy Tuesday, and then you're going to, you guys are gonna download the data, and then you're gonna come back and tell me what data you guys have.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, how do I go to the rooms? That's something I have no, move to.
At the bottom, you have breakout rooms button, and in there you have join buttons. Yeah, and move to options there.
So, but if I ask someone to move, that person is gonna move to where?
I haven't tried that either. Do you want to move somebody?
No. So later, I think they are gonna need to choose what room they wanna be in. Oh, I should have said that they should introduce each other for each other.
I can share what I got. Hold on, that is not correct. Hold on, this is not sharing properly. No. Do you guys see my screen?
Not yet, but
Do you see it now?
yeah.
Okay. So we were able to run the graphs in two different ways. We wanted to first see the trend of beer production of beer bottles and cans in the top 4 states over a 10-year period. And it's unfortunate for us as enthusiasts to see that production is going down over time. And then just a comparison of the 4 states, Texas, Colorado, California, and Ohio. Seems that as of most recent data, Colorado and Texas are the biggest producers. And that's about all we got.
And why do you think that that is the case, that there is a decrease in barrel production?
I don't know if this was up to 2019, so we could potentially say that There was actually I have no idea. Maybe craft brewing, microbrewing. I don't know.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, would be nice if you guys want to use that for your homework, try to like kind of investigate what is the case.
Mhm.
Thank you. So we learned a little bit about beer. We learned that California and Texas are one of the biggest states producing beers and barrels. And Room 2 was working with federal spending in climate stuff. Can you, maybe Emma, I think, was the person that was responsible for that, was telling us about. Can you share with us what you guys have learned?
Yeah, I think Jenny was actually going to present the graph because she definitely was more involved in it than I was able to be.
Okay, yeah, no
We
worries.
all worked on it together.
Yeah,
But
no,
I
no
can share
worries.
my screen.
Okay, thank you.
So we're looking at federal spending. We were focusing on climate spending specifically for our analysis. So we were using a couple of different functions in DPYLR. So we first filtered the climate data to only look at data from the year of 2017. So that's filtering for rows. Next, to prepare for visualizing the data, we use the select function to just choose the columns of department and spending within climate filter. And then for our visualization, we did more of a bar chart, or we used geom call as the geometry for our plot. We could have done either color or fill. So we decided to use color just to outline the bars within the plot. And then we also angled our text on the x-axis to be able to see it better. So this is our result with the different departments on the x-axis here and spending represented on the y-axis. You can see that the spending by NASA is much higher than the rest of the other departments here.
But could that have anything related to the fact that they have more money to spend? Or do you guys have any sense if NASA has more money than other departments?
Very possible. We can pretty easily check by looking at the other data sources here. So I think if we check Fed RD, we can see relatively how much each department has to spend in budgeting.
Yeah, because that could be confounding, right?
Yeah, so we could just filter for 2017 and Fed RD, and then check the NASA row to see how much.
Yeah, divide by their total amount, right? And see if they are spending more than the average.
Yeah, so this is just a very basic first analysis. We could always do more visualizations and more looking into the data in the homework as well.
So what is the least one? The one that is spending the least?
I think all other.
Yeah, or and then interior. What does that mean? You know?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know much about federal spending, but if my breakout room members know, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, the Department of Interior is just another department within, I think it says it protects America's natural resources and heritage. And yeah, it's just another department. So it manages public lands, national parks, wildlife refuges. Yeah.
Cool. So that sounds very cool. Thank you guys for using this.
I have a quick question about the code itself. If you scroll up a little bit, did we need to do the select function on line 242?
I guess they just wanted to subset their data frame, right?
Yeah, it was just to practice the functions.
Yeah,
Right,
and another
okay.
thing, you guys, that it's very exciting and very nice about dplyr and ggplot is that sometimes you can just use, I'm not sure if I'm gonna teach you guys now, but you can just use the filtering, and within the pipe, you can actually plot, make the ggplot inside of the pipe. You guys can maybe Google it, how to do dplyr with ggplot. And I'm gonna let you guys know in a second once everybody presents. Thank you, Em and Jenny and the others from room 2. Room 3 was talking about nutritional data set from Starbucks. Let's see what they have gotten so far and what we could learn from this data set.
So my partner left and she has the code. So
She had the code, but
yeah, she ran the code.
can you maybe explain what you guys learned from that data set?
So our data set was very basic. We just compared the serving size of drinks at Starbucks versus the calorie, and we saw the bigger the serving size correlation with a larger calorie amount.
But there was a little bit of a difference there, right? Like one specific serving size was much higher calorie than the other, right? And I can't remember what was the name of that serving size.
Me neither. I'm not a Starbucks owner, but yeah.
And was not like a linear relationship, you know, like it was not completely linear, but it was increasing. So if you want to be fit and healthy, don't do the talls or the big size from Starbucks. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And room 4 was talking about deforestation, and let's see what they have learned with their data set. Can someone from that room say something or present something?
Hello?
Hey,
Hello?
hey, we can hear you.
Hold on, you're just slow, sorry. Great. So we were looking at deforestation. So we basically loaded the data set, created a subtable with soybean production in 2010. And then I wanted to look at if soybean production was associated with forest loss in specific countries. So this, I kind of filtered a bunch of stuff, created a new table that joins the soybean production and forest loss, and then filtered out anything where they didn't have that data. So it was just these kind of 5 countries and then overall in the world. I haven't gotten to graphing that yet, but what I was doing before was just plotting soybean production in 2013 and got kind of not a very exciting graph here.
Because there were too many countries?
There were. So I filtered them to countries that produced over 10 million units of soybeans. But I started with this graph and then I decided to try and do the other graph joining them to see if soybean production was associated with forest loss. So I need to kind of finish.
Yeah, I guess. I think so. At least in Brazil, there is a lot of deforestation here right now and related to agriculture. So I think you're gonna be able to find that out. Thank you. This data set sounds very good. Thank you, guys. This was very nice. I'm happy and glad that you guys managed to create something out of nowhere. So you are very creative, and that is what's going to happen with the data sets that you're going to be exposed during your academic career. So one thing that I wanted to tell you as well is that basically, I always use Stack Overflow whenever I have a question or a problem with R that I would want to solve. And I was just telling here today that dplyr, you can plot R, you can use ggplot with dplyr. So one could ask in Stack Overflow, how do I combine dplyr with ggplot? And I'm not a robot. Yeah, and then you're always gonna have someone trying to do what you guys are trying. I think there is no moment in life that I never saw something in the internet that I was searching for. And then in that way, you guys learn how to do those different things, you know. And this was not a good example, but there are plenty of examples on how to use. You see here that they use basically everything. No, they don't. But you don't necessarily need to address your data frame. You could just basically use the pipe in order to use the ggplot within this commands. Okay, so now I just want to go back and wrap this up. So I would like you guys as a zero task to fill up the form that Eloy just talked about. So the form, let me just share this link again with you. And the form is here. Like Eloy said, this is very important for us to evaluate the course material, the structure, and how much maybe like improve if you guys have some. So it's how long does it take to fill up this form, Eloy? Maybe he's not listening to me, but I think it's gonna be very, where's the form? No, this is not the link.
Link for survey.
I did, yeah, here. Okay, sorry, I put the wrong link here, there. So fill up the form in the next couple of minutes. And then for those people, can you raise your hand if you're here taking the course for credit, for grading, for credit, like for your, so 2 people, 3, a bunch of you, 5. So 6, so 6, 7, okay, a bunch of you, 8. Okay, 8 people. So the first thing that I want you guys to do, fill up the form. The second thing I encourage everyone to do is to answer the quiz. You can get like, it's from 0 to 10. And that's gonna be the score that we are gonna be using to score you. And then we also ask you guys to make a homework assignment. And the homework assignment is basically what you guys have started doing in your in the breakout rooms. And what we are gonna do basically is I want you guys to create a R Markdown file that is you guys can compile as HTML file. And what I want to see is that you guys managed to create some analysis that you guys yourself managed to produce. So these are the points that I'm going to be looking at. So creating an R Markdown for the homework, and then creating the code chunk and name it correctly. Code chunks that contains hashtag node that is not run as code with a title for your plot or description of your code. So I'm asking for you to do all of this. And I would want both the quiz and the homework to be sent by Thursday, February 3rd. So next week, in a week. Someone asked something? No. So just think that was a different link. Okay. So these instructions are also here in this place here. So in the end of your part 2 R Markdown. So I would suggest that you guys just use the data that you guys took from Tidy Tuesday instead of using the data set that we were using before. So you can basically just create a new data frame like we did before and produce something following these points here that I described. I'm also gonna send an email with those descriptions so you guys have everything in one chunk of emails. Okay, I'm gonna send this as here's some useful links discussed during the last session, and instructions to assignments following below. So sending this, does anybody have any questions? How to export this to you? Okay, so I think there are 2 ways that you could do that. If you guys can compile in PDF, that would be great, because then I don't need to run your script in order to find it out. Otherwise, maybe if you send the HTML, how is that? Can they send just the HTML? Can I see that HTML as the document? I can, right, Sion?
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
to export as a PDF, I think you need latex.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a problem. Just send to me as a HTML or the R Markdown. But it's better if you send the plots in HTML, and that's gonna make, like, I'm gonna be sure that you guys manage to produce a plot if you just send the HTML file. Leader asks, so we can submit either the RMD file or the HTML file, correct? I would prefer that you submit the HTML file, because if you're sending to me the RMD file, the R Markdown, I would need the data to compile your results, and then I wouldn't know if your code is working or not. So I would prefer the HTML. But let me know if you guys have any problems during this when you're working on this, and I will be happy to help you out until February 3rd. So if you have any further questions, I'm here until the end. Otherwise, I just wanna say thank you and congratulations, you managed to finish the workshop. And I hope you guys have learned something, and I hope you guys use R, because it's an awesome language. And hopefully this is, how they say, it's the first step towards learning other languages, because I think R is very, it was my first language, and after that, I saw that R, like, programming is not as hard as people say. Thank you.
I have a quick clarification question.
Yeah.
So with the graphs or the plots that we've already generated, so for the homework, so should we just do like a new one from that same data set?
Yeah, and I mean, you can also just present the one that you produced today in the break room. And what I want you is to like really show that you know how to deal and handle R Markdown. So you could say, this is the assignment for homework, blah, blah, blah. This data set is blah, blah, blah. This is the code chunk. And, you know, like just to show me that you know how to not only plot, but also to handle R Markdown file.
Awesome, thank you. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Whew. Done.
All right.
Woo.